Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the sixth episode of Two Guys, One Spread podcast. Got a bunch of topics to talk about today, a bunch of interesting stuff, takes on a whole bunch of different sports, and of course, we got some betting updates and bets to get in.
Yes, merci beaucoup, Canada,
yeah.
the bibliothèque. Talk about
Uh,
those bets later, but
yeah,
you
I
gotta
know, I know.
gotta love Canada.
Yeah.
Everybody was on my side on that one. I know
Yeah. So we're gonna jump right in and quick recap USA Canada game, some thoughts on it, and then we can keep the train moving. Tom, what was your initial thought of the game?
I mean, it was my initial thought was that USA was a better team in the game pretty much throughout. The Tkachuk injury, I thought really set the team back. I thought they were really punishing them just like they did the first time, and I thought that injury just didn't crush it because I still thought they were the better team even through overtime.
Yeah,
Uh, but it was definitely you could tell. I thought the Canada team just started coming on in the third. The injury definitely hurt them, but it was a great game. Um, yeah, it was one of those in overtime. You saw that pass go to the
yeah,
right there. You're like before it even touches his stick. You're like, oh,
yeah.
done. It's over.
It was funny because one I had those games, you get opportunities like US
Right.
had, and you're like, if you can't cash one of those in, it just seems to go wrong. I
Right. You
mean,
see that all the time. It seems like in overtime, you see one team get five,
yeah,
six great chances,
yeah.
and they don't put it in, and then a minute later,
And
it's
it's funny because Sabres fan, do not like the Leafs. I thought Matthews was getting a lot of heat for that play, right? Like I see
right,
a bunch of people like, how do you leave the world's greatest player? And like,
right, wide open.
I get it. On the surface, you're like, how does it happen? But coaching hockey and playing hockey and watching a ton of hockey, like it happens so easily and so fast where that puck goes someplace, and for one half of a second, you like your initial reaction is to go to the puck or to go after that guy with the puck.
Right.
And it's super easy. I get on the kids that I coach, I get frustrated sometimes, but then I'm like, I'll watch the Sabres and there's four guys looking at the guy behind the net with
Exactly.
the puck. And I think this is what happened. It went in the corner, the defenseman went and Matthews went over to try and get it. And next thing you know, like, if McDavid's not in the high slot and he's in the mid slot or
Yeah.
lower, he might not even be open, but he was in the perfect spot.
Perfect
He
spot.
spotted him, and that's why he's the best in the world
Yeah. He
because his
wasn't.
accuracy is
He was
ridiculous.
bearing that no matter what. I mean, it was unbelievable. Again, like I said, you just saw it in the corner, and then you saw it come out, and it was like,
Yeah,
oh, it's over.
yeah, and I don't know. I'm not. I hate the Leafs, but I felt like he got a little bit of unnecessary slack. I mean, again, you're out there, the best of the best, and you got to cover those guys. But it's they're making it sound like it was the worst defensive play, and nobody else in the world would ever make it. It takes a tenth of a second.
Right.
With that said,
I will say this. I will say this. The USA was like dependent on the Tkachuk brothers and a bunch of. Where was Eichel? Where were
yeah,
some of their star players to be showing up?
I didn't think Eichel had a great game there. I mean, there were other parts of the tournament where I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like he stood out. Like there were moments where I was like, dude, Matthews is all over, right?
right.
He was forechecking and he's getting opportunities. Oh, I, I think USA has to really look at their roster because to me there were some guys that were left off the roster, and I mean I don't know if I would necessarily have said it before, but there was I mean I felt like they were really playing with like two lines, and maybe even those two lines weren't like I didn't think Kreider or a couple of those other
Right.
guys really added anything,
No,
right?
I
And
mean
there
they
are
almost
some.
saw him as a
There,
liability because they weren't playing him pretty much at
that's what
all. He was
correct. And there are some names that were left off that roster that I think could have added a little, scoring pop that we may
well,
have needed.
Page. We're Sabres fans, so Thompson being a
Sure,
guy that you're
sure.
semi confused how it looked like the team they had the grit. They could have used some finesse and scoring, and
Yeah,
Page
I
provides
didn't
that all day.
in a lot of that game. I really felt like the U.S. is only getting scoring from 4 or 5 guys. Like there
Right.
was only everyone else was out there, and I guess you're not getting scored on, so that's okay. But I thought offensively the U.S. team needed to be a little bit deeper, right? Especially maybe now that they've seen the international play, like we've seen how really good defensively some of our defensemen could be. You know what I
Right.
mean? Um, and I thought from an offensive perspective, if it wasn't one of maybe 4 guys, I just didn't think there was quite enough. And Canada can kind of roll guys deeper,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Canada's
the game.
goaltending kind of kept everybody around a little bit.
Yeah. I mean,
So
Bennington made big saves when he
he
needed
did.
to, right?
I mean, his guy was getting crushed, basically for the whole tournament. And when it came down to it in overtime, he was huge.
Yeah, he was. He was. Um, ratings were awesome, right?
Right.
Like
Best
huge
ratings in the
ratings.
last 30 years for
Yeah,
hockey.
I saw the number of bets that were placed on it, which are always a good thing. Um,
Well, people got excited about the fights to start the
yeah,
game, and it was very patriotic, and it just snowballed to this event you couldn't miss, and it was great for hockey. I mean, you had the president calling the team,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
it's not the Olympics. This is just a made up 1 week
yeah,
tournament, but it
yeah.
turned really into this can't miss event.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, I know a couple people have already texted me and they're like, "Oh, now you go back to regular
I
season,
know.
pace hockey." But I think the NHL. I don't know what they can do to get more eyeballs on playoff hockey,
Right.
but with the momentum that they
Yeah, they got
gained
to
from
use it
this,
somehow.
I mean, there's only like what 25, 30 games left in the regular season. I think you have to find a way to do it, and that might mean I don't know what you got to do to get it more available to people to watch, but and that's a big thing.
Well, that
MLB and ESPN just had a falling out about their contract, and I guess they're pretty much going to be done with the MLB. And like you got to find a way to get on some regular TV stations. You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And marquee some of those names that you just became stars.
Well, Cashman
So
screwed up the whole. I did TV deals for. I mean, I don't know how many years you couldn't even find them on. ESPN. They had the great deal with ESPN for a while. Then they were
yeah,
off ESPN for 20 years. Well, how long was it? It was
it was
forever.
it was it was a long time.
Too long. I mean,
Yeah,
and then you're only getting the NBC game once a week on a
yeah,
Saturday afternoon, and if you're not
yeah,
catching it, then you're just not catching any. You're not able to watch any hockey.
yeah.
It, it,
I think they really have to try and find a way to build up some of this momentum that they had in these playoffs coming up, right? Get that, whatever, that casual fan, right?
right.
And I've always been like it's hard to, they always talk about growing the games and growing the games. Like, you live in
It is hard.
the Midwest. I'm not sure how you're going to, you know, unless you come from up north or something along those lines, but if there was ever an opportunity, that I feel like this has got to be it,
This
right?
is
Like
it.
you just
The
had,
biggest thing that happened to sport in 30 years.
yeah,
Easy. So you got to
you
use.
just
You got to
had
figure out a way to use it.
16 million eyes on there, and I don't think anybody left the game being like, "Wow, that really sucked." Like
Right.
I feel like it was a good game, intensity. Some of those names became maybe a little more household
Right.
names, so they really have to find a way to do it. But it was awesome. USA, Canada, that's what everyone wanted. That's what everybody got. Tight game, overtime.
Right.
Obviously, I think Canada is a little, they were a little, worried about, like, if the U.S. wins, then there's that claim like they're better than hockey and all of that. But a big relief for Canada, and I thought the U.S. showed that we are right there with the best of the best, and really, really, really good game.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch. The only bad part was the USA losing, but
Yeah,
other than that, it was an amazing game. It was awesome.
for sure, for sure. Um, So we will roll from that. We will roll into NFL, which a
Right,
lot of people, obviously love. We decided we want to focus on free agency a little bit and the defensive side. I think in one of our upcoming episodes, we'll hit the offensive side too. Um, defensive free agents. I took a couple notes here,
right.
but some big names out there. You had mentioned there's a trio of guys from
Yeah, the
from
Super
from
Bowl
the
champions, the Eagles.
yeah.
I mean,
Anytime you're the Super Bowl champs, you're gonna get picked a little bit, right?
that's true. And then when you watch that game and you just saw Mahomes just not be Mahomes and be on his back and struggling the whole game like you've never seen him play before, you go, oh, is there anybody on that team that maybe we can grab?
Yeah.
And there are some. I mean, the top three guys you got the edge rusher Sweat, and you got the linebacker Bond, and then you have the D tackle Milton Williams.
I mean, let's look at so this is my fear, and it's in football, it's in a lot of sports, right? Like I really I really think the top guys on lists of free agency, I feel like they just don't work out a ton.
Right, that is true a lot of the time.
I feel like you're basically, if you're going to get them, you're going to be forced to kind of overpay.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, if we just focus on the Bills, who are the two biggest free agents that they've brought in defensively, name wise, in the last 20 years?
Well, the biggest one
Von Miller.
yes, and Mario Williams.
Correct. Those are the two. So
Right.
we hadn't even talked about this. Those are the two that I'm thinking.
Right.
Neither of those have really worked out.
No. No,
Like
Mario
not
was the guy
even.
you knew, and they like overpaid by like 10 million a year for him. But
And
at that
it's
point, we were
and it's
terrible.
so exciting as a fan, right? Like you're
Right.
like, it's super exciting. Uh I mean, I would have major concerns about going out and getting some of these guys, right? So Josh Sweat has consistently been a nice NFL player,
Right.
right? Very, very good. In fact, we'll say a very good NFL player. Certainly not elite, right? He's not Aaron Donald, but he had consistent, nice seasons. Of the three, I think I may be maybe the most comfortable with him being productive. That doesn't mean that I want to throw a ton of money at him, but I could see him being the most productive in the next 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah, I mean they're saying it's going to be probably like around 41, 42 million to get him per year. Um, I'm actually different than you. I would go with Milton Williams. The guy he's young, 25. Um, his Super Bowl, he had two sacks in the Super Bowl. The guy was fourth against the run, and he had 5 sacks. That's a D tackle. They're not
Yeah,
supposed to
yeah.
get a ton of sacks anyways. I like his age. I think the NFL, you saw if you can get that push up the middle, it really affects quarterbacks a lot. He'd be the guy I would take a risk on if
All right.
he
So,
had
but
the
but
money.
but we're saying. So I'm not saying risk. I was saying
Money,
no,
inflated.
expectation. Like if you ask me which of them are going to continue to have the success that maybe you're expecting, I think it would be Sweat, right? Like Williams, 4 seasons. They said he started 19 games in
Right,
4 seasons. Now again, he's young, he's
right.
coming on, so maybe he
Well,
has a
I don't know how
bigger,
many he played his rookie year. Maybe he was slow to start.
yeah,
We
and
don't know.
maybe he has a bigger upside, right?
Right,
Like risk, like upside, you know what I mean? But as far as consistency that has demonstrated it already over the course of a few years, right? Sweat's had like multiple seasons where he's averaging 6 to 8 sacks a season,
Right.
and he's done that. So that's where I was coming. Maybe not upside, right? Maybe
Right.
upside Williams has more, but
I know what you're saying. Consistency.
yeah, you know what I mean?
Right.
As
Which is
opposed
huge,
to
and availability is always the best trait you can have. So
yeah. Um
out of those three, Bond's the least. I mean, to me, linebackers they're the running back of the defense, and he's been a role player for teams before he got to the Saints. Before he played for the Saints, before he got to the Eagles,
yeah.
and he had a huge year. Now there are studs everywhere on that defensive line, so he
Yeah.
obviously has room to make some plays. I think that has something to do with it. I think if he goes somewhere else, is he going to have that? He's going to get paid, so is he going to have those defensive tackles in front of him where he can find spaces to make those tackles? I don't know. He didn't
Yeah,
do it
I
before.
I
He didn't
love
do it before he got to Philly. He only played this year on a 1 year deal, about 3 million. So he didn't come in with the idea that he was going to be this stud.
I agree.
So,
I love me a great linebacker, right? Bobby Wagner for Seattle for so long was great. He went to the Rams, he was great. Washington, he was great. Um, you obviously know I've always respected Ray Lewis's game. Like
right.
I love me a great linebacker. But when you have the beast that Philly has up front, I mean those guys are goddamn dogs. Those
Yeah.
guys are
Huge.
monsters. You're freed up to just make tackles in holes,
Right.
or those guys are just getting slammed at the line, and you could come in and finish a guy off. So yeah, I would have major red flags with that. I mean, these guys are go there. So I looked at the cap space. Pats have $120 million. Raiders have 92. Commanders have 75
Right.
million. I mean those are not good defenses that
No.
we need.
No. They're not.
Not good defenses. Some someone's getting these guys their money. They're overpaying for them. I'd be shocked if somehow these guys come back to Philly because that
Oh, I'd be
those
surprised.
paydays. I think they're gonna get offers that are like too big. And I think of the three, I think two of them, those teams are gonna regret the contracts. That's
Right.
what I think.
I see. You look at Washington, and the last thing I remember is I'm playing Philly and just getting torched. I think the first time Saquon played him, he had like 200 yards.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
torched him again the second time. So you got all that salary cap. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw Milton go Williams to to Washington. It would be a
yeah.
perfect fit. But you're right. I mean, they're gonna have to pay up for him. But you know, salary
But
cap just keeps
listen,
going up and up. I mean, it went up 20 more million than they thought it was gonna. So,
yeah,
uh, you gotta spend it on these guys, and they definitely need some run defense. So, you never know. But everybody's putting all free agents to Washington for some
yeah.
reason. So,
Well, I think one, it looks good for the even as a writer, anytime you can get Washington and Jaden Daniels' name in an article, it's
right,
probably get a
yeah,
couple
it's gonna
clicks.
get clicks.
So they love that. I mean, yeah, as I'm going through this, they're linked to every single one. Detroit is linked to every single edge rusher that's out there. There are a few other guys on the edge that I think are interesting, right?
Right.
Khalil Mack, definitely not getting younger, right? He's
No,
34.
34. Let's see. He just turned 34 yesterday.
Well,
So
happy birthday, Khalil.
yeah.
I
So
hope
I
you.
mean, if you're in Buffalo, he was a UB guy.
Yeah,
Um,
always
I
love that.
would have loved to have drafted him back in the day, but we didn't. And but at 34, is there interest in him? He
I think there's always interest in a guy that can rush the QB,
right.
but the question is, again, are we? I don't know how old Vaughn was when we got him, but
That's a good question. I believe he was 32 when we got him.
yeah, I mean, again, I would if I'm a team and I need help on the edge, I want to bring him in. I don't want to give you 3 years, and I don't want to overpay.
It's
So
a
is that
one-year
what?
deal for me if you even do it. So in 2023, 17 sacks. 2024 goes down to 6. That is a massive drop off.
Sure.
And he's got Bosa playing on the other side of him. So it's
Yeah,
like he's got everything going for him.
yeah. That's one of those things that if you can do it. Another name that we talked about was
This is
Chase Young.
more interesting.
He's super interesting to me. Um, he he was I think he was a third overall pick. Was he the third overall pick? Second, maybe?
Second, I think.
Yeah, I mean he had huge in the 2020 draft, right?
Right.
Huge expectations. Things didn't go great in Washington, although that they had a lot of problems there. At one point, they had like 3 or 4 first round or top 2 or 3 picks on the team, and their defense stunk. So they started getting rid of him. He had some injury history, but I mean, believe it or not, I mean, this is crazy. He's 25 years old.
Right. I know.
That's
He's
not
super
old.
young. He
Yeah.
actually, for not having a ton of sacks last year, is top 20 in quarterback hits. I mean, that's huge. Just
Top,
pressures
yeah,
is
top.
what you
He
want.
was top 20 in pressure rate too, which to
Right.
me, like that's a huge one. Like I'm not all. You might not be getting the hit, but you're forcing an early throw. And
Right.
as we saw in the Super Bowl, that early throw is you're like, how did that quarterback not see that guy? Well, he threw it sooner than he wanted to, and he rushed it right.
Right.
So, um,
So would you rather take Sweat and pay that money up for Sweat? Or you'd rather take a what it would be considered a deal on Young, most likely, and
I
take
can
the risk,
almost guarantee that I would rather take Young
right? I
given whatever we'll see when those contracts come out, right?
right,
What they get, but my guess is I would rather take Young. I've said this a million times. These guys get drafted at 20, 21 years old, and a couple of them are ready, right? A lot of them I don't think are ready mentally, from a maturity standpoint, from a professionalism standpoint. They could just go to college and just dominate on pure skill, right?
right.
I mean, I mean, the documentary about not Baker Mayfield. Who was the other? Who was the other? Manziel,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Where he's talking about I'm partying until 2 in
right.
the morning, and then I'm going to practice basically hungover
Yeah,
or
not knowing the playbook at all.
but guys can get by on talent.
Right,
But when you get to the pros, you can't do it, and it takes them a while to grow up mentally. It grow up learning the game, grow up as a professional, right? You get to 25, 26, you're not as dying to go out and party like you did all the time. Some do, some will. But for me, I would be loving to try and get some sort of fair deal for Chase Young, a guy that's obviously got the ability and the skill and the size and the speed, everything that goes along with being a top elite pick.
right.
Things didn't go great.
Now he's on his third team already. So at 26, as a second pick in the draft, which seems pretty amazing to me. It's pretty much unheard of. But he wasn't doing it in Washington. They sent him to 49ers. Didn't do it there, but he did have a decent season. So
Yeah.
that's the guy. I agree. I would take a risk on Chase Young.
It,
I think you can get him for a price and
sure.
not pay top dollar for him. And I think he's definitely worth the risk.
Yeah, that was one name that before we even talked about this, I just looked at the list and I was like, I read a little bit and I was like, yeah, I like that. I mean, I like the potential. I like the fact that you're gonna pay something, but I just it's not I can't wait to see what it's gonna be compared to some of these other guys. So
Right.
um I would I see him linked to all the usual suspects: Bears, Chargers, Raiders, anybody looking for that edge type help. But someone I think there's a big upside for a mediocre size contract, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Another guy I like, and you're talking about like a guy like Bond who you might have to pay up for, and another linebacker. The issue with him is health, but when he's healthy, he's very good. Is Dre Greenlaw
Yeah,
in San Francisco?
yeah,
The guy, the guy's a stud. He is,
yeah.
but he cannot stay on the field. Achilles injuries and this and that. But
When he plays,
when he plays,
when he
he's
plays, he's really good. I mean, I've seen him dominate the Seahawks for a while. So
right.
that's another one. I mean, again, with all of these, you said it earlier, availability is super important.
Right.
Um,
He's
you
only
know,
28, so he's still young enough to where he's pretty much in his prime.
yeah,
Just hope he can come off these injuries. But again, I mean, I'd rather take a shot on him. We're talking about value a lot.
yeah,
I think, yes, the guy is not on the field a lot, which is not what you want.
yeah.
But if he can get pulled together for 1 year, um,
Well, like a value. I mean, I think that's what I think that's what Philly is great at, right? With Bond, they just did it. Like finding value, guys that can play, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it's coaching, maturity, injuries. Like I think a guy like him, like that, there's that value there. Niners also have. I'm gonna hopefully I get it. Talona Hufanga, the
yeah,
safety.
right,
I mean, when 2022, I think was his rookie season,
yeah.
and like he looked awesome. I was like, this guy looks like who's the guy
Uh,
for the Steelers?
oh yeah, Palomino.
Palomalu. Palomalu.
Yeah,
I mean, not just because of the hair, like his game, like he was all over the field. And I know since then he's had a bunch of injuries. Last year he was started injured, came back, struggled for 2 games, injured again. Then he came back for 3, and he didn't look great. But you know, that's the kind of guy that, to me, if you can get him in and get a physical and it checks out, you may be able to get that really strong player for value. And I think in a salary cap league like the NFL, where you have a hard cap,
right.
you really have to look for value guys like that, right? Like
I agree.
I think that goes a long way to making your franchise super successful.
I agree. Now, do you believe in the term injury prone, or is it just guys get hurt and then they come back and they might not get hurt again for the whole career, but the first 3 years of their career they've been banged up? Is it
Uh
is it truly a thing, or is it just a term we like to use?
I think there's certainly guys that are.
I think there's guys who don't want to play banged up
It
and
could.
don't
That's
want to
right.
play
So
through it. But
yep, how much you're willing to play through it, right? You know what I mean? Um,
I think guys who have those soft muscle tissue
yeah,
injuries, those are just chronic things,
yeah.
and I don't want to have a guy like that. But if you're getting a knee injury or Achilles, I don't know. It depends how old you are, but
Well, and I
you
guess
can
how
come
it happens,
back from that, and
right?
I think you can never have any issues again.
You get your ankle rolled up on. Like, what are you supposed to do? I'm going to make a tackle, and I got some guy fell and rolled into me. Like, I
Right.
guess there's a
Sometimes it's
luck
just bad luck.
there's a luck factor to it, but I think there's, you could definitely find examples of guys that were banged up for a few seasons and then for whatever reason, right? Again, some of that could be, and again, some of this we don't know, but it could be when I was young, I didn't train properly. I wasn't as dedicated in the gym, like all of that stuff. And now that I'm older, I've learned better and I am a little bit better physically and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it could be a number of things, or I guess some of it could just be luck, right? You know
Right.
what I mean? But I think there's guys when you see a guy that you know can do it physically and mentally, that's the kind of that's the kind of risk I guess I would love to take, right? Like on a guy like him as opposed to like we talked. You have one or two good games,
Well, like say like a
but
team like Buffalo or anybody who's hard on that cap, you don't you got to get guys
yeah,
that are going to be at a value, and you got to find value at positions. And if you can get a Greenlaw, you're taking a shot, you're taking a
yeah,
risk. But if you can get him at a cheap veteran rate,
yeah,
he's the upside's so big
yeah.
that it's worth it.
You know who needs to find value? The
The
Saints.
Saints,
The Saints.
Saints,
$52 million over the cap. I
right?
mean, they
It's
don't even
because
have they don't even have a good
people
roster.
keep saying that the cap doesn't is not a real thing, but the Saints are like, you are wrong. It is
Yeah,
real.
they're like, it
You look at
is.
that roster, you can't name a guy like they screwed up the whole when Drew Brees left. They thought they had a couple more,
Couple.
one or two more runs at a real Super Bowl chance, and they didn't. And they kept pushing contracts, and it is an issue. And I
52 million. That is insane. The Bills and the Seahawks are both towards the very bottom of being in the hole, but they're not even close to the Saints. So
right,
that's
yeah,
that's
the Bills
that's
always, they're gonna rework contracts. They can do it because Allen's not going anywhere. So
yeah,
he's the I mean right there you can make up $50 million by making his like a bonus,
yeah,
and that you're pushing it down the line. But you could do it when you know your quarterback's going to be here for
yeah,
you know 10 more years.
yeah,
It's easy to push it down the line. You
yeah,
can get that 50 million now, and yeah, you're up against the cap, but you could find money.
yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, there's
You got to
ways.
do it with the right players. We looked at this. The Saints were the players they spent money on. We never even heard of these guys.
No, I know. I mean, Mike. I know Michael Thomas was on there, and I've heard of him, but
Right. Well, he hasn't been
like
good in 10 years.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy, but that's what I love about the NFL. Like I cannot listen to the Dodgers spending that much money. I mean, maybe it's good for baseball, but I just if
How is it
as
good for baseball? We could talk about baseball our time, but
I
baseball's
I hate it.
a terrible sport. A
The
terrible
NFL
sport.
system's perfect. It's great.
Yes.
It's
I don't
great.
know. I like watching baseball. I do, but it is hard. If we had a team in Buffalo, or if we
No,
were
no.
like
If dude
the
look at Pittsburgh, like,
Pittsburgh's, they
and I know we got we the owners, those owners could spend more, but there's just no reason why sports leagues don't have a cap and a floor, and it
right,
should be relatively close, and it should be a
relatively.
hard cap, not these three tiers where they just keep paying in. I mean, whatever. We can talk salary cap a whole
Another
nother
time, baseball will be a topic soon,
whole
but
nother episode. So
I don't. It's gonna kill the sport if it hasn't already a little bit already. But I guess if you're a Dodgers or a Yankees fan or a Red Sox fan and maybe a Mets fan, you like baseball. But the
yeah,
other 28 teams, it's it's hard to enjoy. But
yeah.
anyways, we'll talk about that another time.
So,
Um,
yeah, it'll be NFL free agency is always interesting. Like I said, you got the Pats, the Raiders, Commanders. Those guys are going to spend a boatload of money. They should. Their defenses were not good. I think that's being freaking nice, but
it's
they were
always
not
interesting
good.
what I remember when the lad you get about every 5 years you get that money where you're way below the cap. And I
Yeah,
remember last time the Patriots were, and they spent a lot of money on tight ends and this and
yeah,
that, and it was like, man, who they getting?
I know.
So you always could screw up, and then you're hurting again for years down the line. So that's why getting these deals and value guys, those are the guys you want to wait till day two
Yeah,
free
I
agency.
I say. I mean, I always am like day one, I almost never want to see my team in
Yeah, you
any
don't want to be the
sport.
first, Scheffler breaking news that the
Yeah, you're just like, oh,
Seahawks have
yeah.
signed who was so and so, and you're like, well, shoot, it's
Outside of the,
awesome. I mean, we're gonna cheer for him, but this guy's
yeah,
gonna
that's right, and it's exciting because it's a name.
right.
But listen, I remember when the Seahawks traded for Jimmy Graham, and they traded Max Unger, the center, and it's like on the surface, it's like so exciting, and I was like, oh, it was a disaster trade. Unger went on, still was great. Seattle's offensive line, they haven't had a center since then, and Jimmy Graham was never good after that.
Can I
He
tell
just,
you a bet I made about Jimmy Graham? Do you know
yeah,
about this bet with
I think
Dunny?
I think I know it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we have a friend named Dunny, and the guy when Jimmy Graham went to Green Bay got overly excited,
Yeah,
and we're at a draft, and Dunny likes to have a couple drinks,
yeah.
and you know he drafts Jimmy Graham way too early, and I'm like, that's a terrible pick. And he goes, Jimmy Graham's going to have 20 touchdowns this year.
Oh,
And I go, I don't. And I go, no way, no way. I'm just. He goes, not only will he have 20 touchdowns, he will have 20 touchdowns by December 1st. And I
oh,
go, I don't know how much money you have in the bank account and you want to bet,
yeah.
but I am in. So we did $100 bet, and Jimmy Graham
Free
had
hundo.
one touchdown that year.
Free hundo.
No injuries. We had
Yeah.
an injury clause in it because I wasn't about to just.
Being a nice guy.
I was being a good guy. I could say no injuries, but we had an injury. If he didn't play a certain amount of games, I would the bet's off. But he played 16 games that year, had one touchdown.
Oh,
Oh,
I love.
one of my
Listen,
favorite bets.
I always love looking for the guy that just overvalues something ridiculous. There's always.
The Homer guy,
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Buffalo.
yeah,
It's a guy here and this and that.
yeah. Yeah. Listen, they're out there. They're out there. You
Right.
just gotta find them. I love it.
It's hard to make those bets that are you get house odds are so good.
I
But
know.
they're out there.
Yep. So, all right, NFL free agency. Next we're gonna go to our bets. Now that we're talking
Woo.
about bets, right?
Look at we were hot.
We got really hot. I'll start with myself. I made the mistake of putting the bets out there, but they were like literally about the same exact time as I was uploading the episode. So
Right.
I guess nobody got to trail or follow them. But I went 2-0. I had Rutgers getting 2.5 on the road versus Washington. Rutgers has super talent. Their record's not good, but I was getting the points, and I just thought it was a spot that, even though they were on the road, I liked it. They pushed it to overtime. They wound up winning outright 89-85. Cash to bet, cha-ching. My second one was Kentucky versus Vanderbilt. I liked Kentucky at Rupp Arena. They were given 5.5. I think they were coming off a loss or maybe 2 losses, but that's just it's a tough place to play. It's Kentucky. We're really ramping up towards March Madness. They were given 5.5. Wasn't even close. 82-61. Kentucky's deep. They got 6 guys that get double figures. I loved that. So if one guy's cold, these other guys are making up for it. I won both of them. That puts me at 5-3.
Very nice, very nice. So I'm getting closer and closer to the 500 mark.
Yeah.
I took that very unpopular bet, taking Canada.
Boo.
I think it went off at plus 105, which it just seemed insane to me.
Yeah.
Canada's very good. I know a lot of the money. All the money's going on USA, which I get. Everybody's gonna wants to root for USA, so they're gonna bet on them. I understand it, but
The
listen,
Canadian books were the opposite. I read about it. It
oh,
was like
I bet,
both of them were like 87% money on their home team. I was just like, that's hilarious.
yeah. So
Um,
very unpopular, but hey,
that,
it's a
that's
win,
a W for you.
right? So as soon as that game ended, I switched to TNT, and the San Antonio Spurs were playing the Suns, which I had the Spurs minus 2.5, and the news we'll talk about it a little bit after, but the news broke earlier that Wemby is out for the season. So I was like, I don't know about this bet, but I was right. My analysis is still right. The Suns, they can't stop anybody. They are 27th or worse in every defensive category there is. And their offense, which you would think would be decent, it's just okay. But their defense is awful.
Yeah.
Awful. 27th or worse in every category.
Well, the Spurs hung a 120 burger,
Yep.
120, 109.
Right.
So cash
Cash
and
money. So we went 4-0 this week.
love it.
Love
Love,
that.
and that brings you to 3-5.
Right. I'm still trying to get over, your record is your record. Super Bowl, it was a lot of prop bets.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the losses there, but
Yeah.
I feel in real life I'm over 500, but I'm going to my record is the record.
That's right. Your wallet. I mean, your wallet is what really is
Yeah.
what's.
So that's right. You're right. My wallet
So
says that
all
I'm
right.
3-5.
So I'm not going to make the same mistake. We're putting bets in enough time that if someone listens to this tonight or tomorrow, that they can put those bets in. You want to fire yours off?
Yeah, I got one that just seems fishy a little bit. Michigan is ranked currently 12th. Nebraska's not ranked at all. Um, and let's see what we got here. Let me just find it real quick. Yeah, Nebraska's at home, and they're giving just one. Just seems interesting to me. So I'm taking Nebraska -1 at home over Michigan.
All right.
And another one that again, just Houston's ranked. This is gonna be a good game, I think. But you got Houston, who's ranked fourth right now, and Texas Tech. Where are they ranked? I think ninth. Let me double check that. Texas Tech, they are ranked ninth. So it's gonna be a very good game.
Yeah.
But Houston is getting two. It's a home game for Texas Tech, so I will take the 2 points at home.
I like that.
And yeah, so those are my game. I got Texas Tech getting two at home versus Houston, and I am taking Nebraska at home versus Michigan. They're giving one.
So you got
That's
Nebraska and you got Houston?
I'm taking
Tech.
yes. No, I'm sorry. I am taking Tech.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now I don't like it because I like Houston.
Yeah,
Houston's one of my favorites. They're in the Calcutta that I'm in, which we'll talk about in March Madness.
right.
I love getting Houston. So I will maybe we'll side bet. We'll talk.
Maybe. All right.
Myself, I have again. I'm taking one of those little spread home college home college games. I'm going to take Delaware State. They're giving 3.5 to North Carolina Central. North Carolina Central beat them earlier in the year, but they were at home. Delaware State's a little better team, better record, better in their conference. 3.5 in basketball is, that's a couple free throws even in a close game. And I love the fact that they're at home. I think these small college teams, like, they don't travel as comfortable as big programs, and I'll happily lay those 3.5. The other one, I am going to the NHL, and I believe this is Monday. I am taking the Jets -1.5 versus the Sharks. The Sharks are not a good team.
No,
The Jets are a really good team. It is -165, so it's not like I'm getting amazing odds, but I'm going to lay it. I think they easily can blow them out of the water completely, or I love the fact I get an empty netter and I can still cover.
right.
So the Sharks are they're not good, and the Jets are talented. They got great goaltending. Even if it's their backup, I'm still comfortable with it. I'm a big Kyle Connor guy, to be honest. I think he could be a big part of Team USA going forward. I actually would have liked to see him involved. I thought he could provide a bunch of offense. So I'll take the Jets. I'll lay a goal and a half, and I think I might win by 3 or 4 goals.
Nice.
So we got those bets. Those are our bets. Like I said, I'm 5-3. Tom's 3-5, trending in the right direction for sure. So let's try and go 2-0 on both of those. Next, we got 2 more things we're going to touch on. One of them you mentioned earlier was the
Right.
Wemby injury.
Yeah, I gave him the kiss of death. We talked about him in the last pod, and everything great about him, and it came out later that the next day that he's out for this season.
And what scares me is something weird, like a weird. I mean, I don't know if I call it an injury, like some weird injury for a guy who is
42.
freakishly built, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and young.
yeah, that's right. It's just this is. I mean, NBA. You can go through a long list of big guys with weird injuries or just injury problems, whether it be feet, stuff like that. We've seen it plenty of times. I mean, I really hope for the NBA's sake and for that kid's sake that it's a one-off and that he heals and comes back, because like we said on the last one, it is something to watch, a guy that tall and lanky but that athletic and that skilled and talented.
Yeah,
But
so I mean, if you didn't hear, he has what's called deep vein thrombosis.
yeah.
So, clot in the veins, which obviously very scary. You can understand why they pulled him.
Yeah, and I mean they said it looks good for next year, and there's been a couple other people that have had it and it's just never come back. But with a big guy, I would be, if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be so freaking scared.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. He's your future of the franchise, probably future of the NBA, and now you got
And
a guy who's got
a guy that, I mean, he's shown that he is a freak. It's like different. Like he is different. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it would be one thing if you drafted him and he never, his rookie year he looked okay, but didn't look good, and then you started this. But like here, it's like, wow, we know what we have. We know this is freakish. We know this is special, and now you're gonna have, who knows, months and months and
yeah. It's
months.
one of those things. It's not a knee. It's not a
Yeah, oh, it's just
it's
something weird.
something weird. So you hope the kid can play again and comes back fully healthy. It's scary, and you just want to see him because the NBA needs stars right now, and he is their star.
Yeah, and
So,
I mean, a guy, I don't care what anybody says. That's the end of that season for
oh
them,
yeah,
right? And he is the kind of guy that, I mean, he could take over a playoff series and just
absolutely. Yeah,
right.
their season's done,
So
and they're just looking forward now to next year, and hopefully he comes
yeah,
back healthy.
not. I mean, listen, it's there's no guarantees. The West is obviously a tough conference. The Lakers finally just had their first game where they looked like, they looked like what they were thinking they were going to look like.
Right.
But Oklahoma City's really
Also,
good.
they're great.
They're
Denver's
great.
great. I mean, Jokic
Yeah,
has always been a
Denver's really really good. So like coming out of the West is a challenge. But I mean I feel like a guy like that can definitely at least get you along in the playoffs because he's so good. But yeah, the West is definitely going to be interesting. The East, I don't know. I mean, I still feel like it's the Celtics and other people.
You're right. That's
Although
Cleveland's
Cleveland,
a great story.
yeah,
Can they do it in the playoffs? I mean, they hung with them last year,
yeah,
so we'll see. But
for
yeah,
sure.
we'll talk NBA playoffs when it comes around. But yeah, it sucks for San Antonio fans. It sucks for NBA fans.
Yeah,
But you just
but
hope.
I mean, big guy. Look at, Philly. I mean, Embiid is still. I mean, he has those big guys. It's just
Yeah,
scary. It's so. I mean, again, it kind of puts like Shaq's career, like how awesome he was, and be able to do it for long and consistent,
Well,
right?
yeah, same with LeBron. I mean, guy's 40. And no one plays back-to-back games anymore. The guy's
Yeah,
40, a billionaire. I'm not a big LeBron guy, but I'll give him credit when credit's due. The guy plays back-to-back games. He's out there.
yeah,
He's never had a major injury.
yeah. And for as long as he did it, but like that's the part. Like I just every season with Embiid, it's somewhere. It's the beginning. It's
Right,
the middle. It's the end. It's the playoffs. It's like he just never can stay healthy, and
right.
that's again great talent, but big guys are scary, and you know I don't know. I hope it's a one off for Wemby.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about
Right.
our last topic here, and it's sports movies. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk. We'll give our favorite in genre. I think in future episodes. You have golf as well.
I'm gonna go golf because you told me you were gonna go
Yep,
golf.
I
So
am going
we'll
golf.
go
I'm gonna
we'll
go
go
golf, and
a favorite golf movie,
yeah,
and as we go through in other episodes, we'll I don't know pick a sport and go from there. So
right. I mean, to me, it's Tin Cup all day. Um, it's a great movie. You got McAvoy, who was a prodigy at golf, who ends up working at a driving range, and you know it goes from there. It's got Cheech. The movie's hilarious. A lot of great one-liners. The hitting the 7 iron. The guy can hit his 7 further than anybody, but then the guy hits it down the road. You
yeah,
got him finally making it to the U.S. Open, and he tries to make it over the water 12 times. The movie's awesome. It's one of my favorites. If I see it on, I gotta watch it. Makes me
I
laugh
mean,
every time.
r- really good movie. I think 4 or 5 times a golf season, you have someone that you're out there golfing with
Oh yeah,
in the water, and they're just like,
yeah.
"Give me tin cup."
He's
So
got the one of the best is when he shows up late to his round, and he's like, do I got time for a quick bucket? And they're literally teeing off. Everybody uses that all the time. The chili
yeah,
dippers,
yeah,
when you're having, everybody, if you golf, you start getting those chili dippers. He's got all the tools, all the hats, and the
yeah,
whole setup up to try to fix his swing. Who hasn't thought of doing anything when you're hitting the ball bad?
yeah,
So it's got a lot of that. A lot of that stuff hits home when you're playing golf, especially when a guy like that who's a golf prodigy, and then all of a sudden you just lose your swing. And we've all been out in the course, and you could do it for 1 9. You can be playing decent. The next 9, it's like you've never played golf before.
yeah,
I've been there
yeah,
many times, so a
yeah.
lot of these things just make me laugh, and it hits maybe too close to home, but that's what makes the movie great.
Uh, I'm gonna go. Mine is it's a golf and a hockey prodigy because I gotta go Happy Gilmore. Right?
All right, yeah, yeah,
I mean, Happy Gilmore is it's just a great movie. Like I love to laugh. I like making people laugh, and like there's just so much in that movie that is so damn funny.
right.
Um, I mean between Shooter McGavin, who's just that guy's
Perfect bad guy.
yeah, perfect bad guy. I mean, I love he's if you don't follow him on Twitter,
Oh, he's one of the best.
he's the best. He is absolutely the best. Chubbs, just the whole scene, the whole scene where with his hand,
Right.
just awesome. That
Yeah.
movie is just great,
Another
hilarious.
highly quoted movie when you're on the course.
Tons of them, tons of them.
Yeah.
Bob Barker, right? Bob
Right.
Barker. The whole thing is just great. Super funny movie. Uh, I'm a little worried for Happy Gilmore too, just
I
because
know. I'm almost worried. I am worried about it too. That it's just gonna be a dud.
I just there's
There's
been
no upside to
so
making this
rarely
movie.
so rarely is two ever any good,
Right.
but I feel like it's got a chance because because of as just the Sandler, and then the bringing back Shooter, and I just think Shooter is just he's just so good. He's one of the few guys, like the few movie people that like I actually there was a time when like I would see him not in the role, and I'm like,
yeah, no, he's Shooter no matter what he's doing.
yeah, and I like I hated him, like
Right?
like I'm like this guy's not even real. But I just love that movie. Obviously, I'm a hockey guy, I'm a golf guy, so it all kind of fits in. But I mean, we've all tried the Happy Gilmore. We've all
Oh yeah.
seen a million people try the Happy Gilmore, and it's awesome. I love it. I'll have to look up to see when 2 is coming out. I just hope it's solid. I hope it's not awful.
Yeah, it's
Right?
coming out soon, like a couple months, I believe. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope it's not terrible. Sometimes you start bringing in all these cameos and stuff, and it can get a little cheesy. So I'm hoping they did a good job. But
Yeah.
listen, I'm excited to see Shooter again. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Really, really, really great movie. So, all right, there you got it. Episode number 6 in the books. We're gonna try and get another one out on Tuesday, right?
Right? Yeah, because I'll be doing my own little golf trip,
Where are you going again?
Lauderdale, Fort Lauderdale, with the
Nice. That'll.
boys. So we'll have a couple drinks, play a couple, hit a couple golf shots out there.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah.
All right. So until then, we are on YouTube. We are on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Go ahead and give us a subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode and have a. Is there such thing as a good start to a work week?
That's right. And remember,
Yeah.
blame Canada. It wasn't my fault. Listen, I'm giving you winners. That's all I can do.
It's about time.
Yeah.
All right.
All
I
right.
will talk to you.
Yep.
See ya.
See ya.